A family farmer leads Nebraska's top industry forward. Ahead on Grow, we visit with the new state ag director and Governor Pete Ricketts. Plus, farmers sound the alarm on trade. We'll tell you how many dollars may be at stake in Nebraska during NAFTA talks. And the debate over property taxes could be on your ballot. Get ready to grow. There's little time to learn on the job as the new state ag director takes on some big issues. We start tonight by getting to know Steve Wellman.
Give me a warm reception to our 27th ag director, Steve Wellman.
A family farmer from southeast Nebraska, Steve Wellman raises crops and cattle.
But we're on the same farm that my grandfather bought and where my dad was born.
Governor Ricketts' choice to lead the State Department of Agriculture spends his first day on the job visiting ag leaders at the Nebraska Farm Bureau Convention.
I had a chance to see him work live in action. In
a state that relies on exports, Wellman's experiences with international trade impressed the governor.
I got a chance to see Steve work in action on our European trade mission, and I know he's going to do a fantastic job of representing Nebraska.
Wellman was president of the American Soybean Association and has traveled extensively and will now be the face of Nebraska agriculture at home and around the globe.
The Nebraska brand does mean something. The relationships that have been built by Nebraska agriculture, Nebraska's governors over all those years, and the industry itself to those customers. It is a relationship business, and you want to continue to reach out and build on those relationships.
Wellman supports free trade with Canada and Mexico and the governor's objectives of growing the state through expansion of livestock and ethanol.
That was the one thing that really impressed me, was the governor's understanding of how important agriculture is to the state of Nebraska.
The 56-year-old farmer and his wife have 2 grown children and says he's proud to be part of the team promoting the industry he loves. Speaking of value added, the EPA has given the green light to a local plant to produce cellulosic ethanol. Mid-America Agri Products, located in Madrid in Perkins County, won approval from the federal government for the biofuel generated from corn waste products such as leaves, stalks, and cobs. The facility began production this month and has the capacity to make 48 million gallons per year. The showdown over property taxes could end up on your ballot. Here's more on what they're calling the 50-50 plan.
This organization has and continues to be all in to lessen your property tax load.
Farm Bureau members say they've had enough.
We've seen the legislature not act for a number of years, and that we're really going to have to take this into our own hands and take it to the people. So that's an option.
Leading the call to put a ballot issue together is State Senator Steve Erdman of Bayard.
All I want for Christmas is property tax relief.
He calls it the 50-50 plan.
To have a refund or a credit equal to 50% of the funds that you pay out of your local property and personal property tax that goes to fund public schools.
In other words, if you pay $5,000 in property taxes to your local school, you'd get a $2,500 credit. Governor Ricketts calls that a fantasy without a plan to pay for what he says is a $1 billion proposal.
You're either going to have to raise taxes, it would be a massive tax increase, or you're going to have to cut expenses.
Speaking to Farm Bureau, the governor says he wants to encourage dialogue on tax relief, but says prisons would close or schools would lose all state aid to pay for the tax cuts.
And I think the proponents of that plan have to talk about how are they going to pay for that.
Erdman says state government is too big and programs could be cut, and not the ones the governor has suggested.
I heard his comments yesterday we'd have to shut down the prisons and all this stuff. That's not the case.
While Senator Erdman and farm groups talk about taking the issue to the voters, they say that's Plan B. Now, from state tax relief to the feds, what does Congress's plan mean for farmers and ranchers?
You look at the value of where ag land continues to be in this state, and you have a lot of farmers and ranchers that may on paper seem to have quite a large estate, which is true. However, when you look at the income side of things, that doesn't always translate back to a cash side of things. It's a heavy asset versus cash poor type of situation. And so you have farmers and ranchers that spend an awful lot of money, not just on the tax itself, but also preparing their estates and going through the estate planning process to make sure that those estates that they have created, those farms and ranches that are family-owned, family-oriented, in a lot of ways can stay in that family. You know, from our standpoint, we saw a lot of good in the bill. And while none of these proposals have been perfect, if you look at where the individual income tax rates are, or the business tax rates, we feel this is going to be beneficial for farmers and ranchers. You look at the expansion that they've made in expensing, doubling the estate tax exemption, the Senate bill and the House bill, eventually eliminating the estate tax, and then at the same time continuing to provide relief. I know we've had a lot of contacts from producers worried about whether or not they can continue to deduct their property taxes. Obviously, property tax is still a big topic in this state, and in both proposals, we believe, and what we've seen is that, yes, farmers and ranchers would be able to do that.
2017 is quickly coming to an end, and we want your help in determining the top farm stories in Nebraska for the year. Outside of the poor farm economy, that is, we've narrowed it down to 4 issues we've covered a lot this year. First, China reopens borders to American beef, and Nebraska leads the way. Next, the longest-serving state ag director in Nebraska history takes a top post at the USDA. Then we have an option about the growing season, both the weeds and harvest problems that have been a challenge. And your last choice, expansion in the poultry sector, especially Costco's new plant. Follow Grow on Twitter to cast your votes. And now your Christmas-themed poll question. We were inspired by a visit to a Christmas tree farm, and we want to know what kind of tree you have. The overwhelming majority have artificial trees up. Some have real ones or both kinds. A few Grinches say no Christmas trees, to which we say bah humbug. Nebraska cattlemen set their policy objectives. Members met in Kearney. The group is keeping an eye on state and federal issues. Nebraska's 105th legislative session kicks off January 3rd. Ranchers will be watching for changes to property taxes, but also federal issues.
Trade basically can add $300 to $350 to every animal and the value. So from that standpoint, it's really important that we keep our focus on that. So with all the trade agreements going on internationally, NAFTA, Japan, Korea, we have to keep our eye on the ball on that.
We'll have more from cattlemen later in the show. What's the impact of NAFTA on Nebraska? We'll have a closer look later. Next, more of our interview with the new state ag director.
Hi, I'm Lydia Vitton, the 2017-2018 Nebraska FFA State Secretary, and you're watching Grow NTV.
Hi, I'm Casey Shoemaker from up by Chadron, Nebraska, and you're watching Grow.
Hi, I'm Jack Reimers from the Howard County Fair, and you're watching NTV's Grow.